We welcome you into CBS Sports HQ, and we've got breaking news. Trae Young, who was listed as questionable, is now active, expected to play tonight in the do-or-die Game 6 for the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Trae, of course, has missed the past 2 games with a bruised bone in his foot. Again, Trae Young active tonight in Atlanta. And joining us now is Avery Johnson. Avery, obviously big boost for the Hawks and their fans. What's your reaction?
Just excited for the Hawks fans. And Trae Young may not be his 100% version of himself. But again, this is a guy that closed out the Philadelphia 76ers. This has been a sleeper team all playoffs. Nate McMillan, even when he took over this team, they were a subpar 500 team in the regular season. Complete turnaround. Nate McMillan should be a turnaround specialist. That should be his nickname. But again, Trae Young, this is all about a pain threshold type of an injury. This injury wasn't a career-ending injury or a season-ending injury. It never was that. It was all about how much pain tolerance can you have? And obviously, the doctors have run all of the tests on Trae. He wants to give it a go. This is a do-or-die situation for the Atlanta Hawks, and good for the Hawks fans and NBA fans all around the world.
As a former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery, if you're on the sideline, how do you use Trae Young tonight, knowing that he's most likely less than 100%?
Well, it's one of those situations, Todd, where if you're going to play him, you got to use him and you got to play him. You can't allow him to sit on the bench for long stretches and to get cold and stiff. You want to keep him on the court as much as possible. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you want to get him involved as much as you can, especially when he's on the defensive end. Maybe you want to test his three-point shooting ability and his long-range accuracy early in the game. But the main thing is you want to make him work on the defensive end. If he's guarding one of your perimeter players and those perimeter players are not involved in offense and a shot is taken, you want that perimeter player to go to the offensive glass to force Trae Young to box you out, to test that foot, test his stamina. So I think it's a little bit of a chess match on both sides of the ball.
Considering how well the others, as you called them last time, played without Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Bucks tonight, how do you expect them to handle Trae tonight, and who do you think the favorite should be?
Well, I think the favorite, even before Trae Young announcing that he was going to play tonight, are the Atlanta Hawks. Because even if Trae's not at his best, they got to get the ball to Lou Williams. Lou Williams is a difference maker in this series. He showed it in Game 4. You know, 20-plus points, limited turnovers, didn't play as well on the road. But a lot of those role players, Lou Williams, Gallinari, Bogdanovic, John Collins, Capella, they tend to play better at home than they do on the road. So, and especially if Trae Young is coming back, I think that's going to help them with their emotions. And I think that's going to help build confidence. So I'm favoring the Atlanta Hawks, as I was before the Trae Young announcement in this game.
Well, we saw the point spread move from -2.5 to -3.5 now that Trae Young is on the floor. You told me that you think the Hawks should be the favorite. Break this matchup down for us tonight. What do you think we're going to see?
Well, you're going to see the Atlanta Hawks get off to a fast start. They're going to be fast, furious. We talked about the same thing with the Milwaukee Bucks. This is a true 7-game series, guys. And at the end of the day, the Atlanta Hawks, their fans are going to be in a frenzy tonight. Look for them to force more turnovers from the Milwaukee Bucks. They only turned it over 8 times in Game 5. Look them to turn the ball over a little bit more. I don't know if they're going to allow Brook Lopez to have that deep post position as he did with his breakout performance. So look for them to make an adjustment there. The series is all about adjustments. I've been here a million times with the Dallas Mavericks when we led them to the finals in 2006. It's all about adjustments. It's all about adaptability. It's all about communication. So look for Nate McMillan to pull all the right strings tonight, especially with the little maestro back, Trae Young.
Final question to you, Avery. Sometimes you can tell the entire outcome of a basketball game by reading the box score. What does Trae Young's numbers, or what do his numbers need to look like tonight for the Atlanta Hawks to have a chance to win?
Great question, Todd. I think it needs to be a balance. I think he needs to have about 26 points, 10 to 12 assists. He's got to be balanced because even early in the series where he scored points, but he didn't have but 4 assists, they didn't win that game. So he's got to get double-figure assists. So that lets me know that other players are scoring the ball, especially Bogdanovich, because when Bogdanovich struggles, Trae Young doesn't have as many assists. He went 3 for 16 in the game. Trae Young struggled. So look for Trae Young to have double-figure assists or close to it, 20-plus points, and that's going to be an indication that Atlanta's playing some of their best basketball.
Trae Young active for tonight's Game 6, 8:30 p.m. tip-off. We'll speak to Avery Johnson at its conclusion. Coach, enjoy the game. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, teams down 3-2 in a best-of-7 series in playoff history. 56% of them lost in 6 games, 28% lost in 7 games. So basically the Hawks have a 16% chance to come back and win this thing, although it might be a little higher now that Trae Young is active for tonight.
So the Bucks on the verge of the NBA Finals for the first time since 1974. We welcome Malika Andrews back to the show. And Malika, the storyline for this postseason, we're going to have some new blood in the finals. And unfortunately, injuries are a gigantic storyline in the East and in the West. In this series, we have Giannis out with that knee hyperextension. What do we know about his potential availability for Game 6?
Well, for Game 6, Scott, he is officially listed as doubtful for that game. And Mike Budenholzer told me that Giannis, because Friday was a travel day, he actually still hasn't been able to get on the court to do any basketball activities. Now, at shoot-around on Thursday, he was in the weight room. He was able to do some work there. Obviously, I saw him in Game 5 on the sidelines. He was walking up and down the sidelines, cheering on his teammates. But he did work in the weight room, not on the court. And that's going to be an integral step in his eventual return to the floor. So the Bucks know it's a very real possibility that they're going to have to try to close out this series without him. And Chris Middleton said after the game he was going to go back home. He watched the game back immediately. He drank some Pedialyte while he did so, but they were really focusing in on what they're going to need to do to step up because they know that it's a very real thought that they may not have their star here in Game 6, Scott.
Well, they got some big contributions from Portis and Lopez in Giannis's absence, and the Bucks have the luxury of not needing him in Game 6. They've got a game in hand. You don't want to play around, but you could lose a game. Atlanta does not have that luxury, and they didn't have Trae Young the last 2. What do we know about Trae's possible play for Game 6?
Well, the outlook for him is a little bit more positive, Scott. He's officially listed as questionable. I saw Trae Young when he was warming up ahead of Game 5, which he obviously did not play in, but he was able to shoot. He was moving a little bit gingerly, but this continues to be about 2 things, Scott. It's about pain tolerance and his mobility, and those 2 things I've been told they are improving. So we know that Trae Young as a player, this pains him. Much like Giannis Antetokounmpo, these guys are built to be out on the floor. He wants to be there with his team, and I've been told he's been making some pretty good, some pretty significant progress. So he is hopeful, and the Hawks are hopeful that he's going to be able to go, but there's still a couple of things they need to check off that list, things he needs to test out before they make an official decision either way, Scott.
Yeah, you got to think that if he's in any way able to be out on that floor, even in a reduced capacity, he'd be there for Game 6, because if they don't get that one, then there is no Game 7. As always, Malika, your time's appreciated. Be well.
Thanks so much, Scott.